10 worst injuries of the 23 NFL season is brought to you by SportsMed Analytics. Deshaun Watson displaced glenoid fracture. The original injury came on week 3 against the Titans on this scramble. He would attempt to return in week 7 against the Colts, but would leave in the first quarter. He'd come back to have his strongest performance of the year in week 10, but we would later learn that he would re-aggravate it and caused a displaced fracture. Data suggests full speed throwing by May. Number 9, Maxx septic prepatellar bursitis status post bursectomy. The original injury has been reported to be in week 2. Crosby likely continued to re-aggravate it with each practice and each game. This clip from week 7 against the Bears shows a terrible chop block to that leg that definitely made matters worse. This injury most commonly occurs after a direct blow to the front of the knee, leading to inflammation, and it's made worse from repetitive trauma. What's bananas is Maxx might be the only player in NFL history to play in the same week he was hospitalized and got IV antibiotics to treat septic bursitis. He underwent bursectomy this off-season. Though there's limited data on this, we're anticipating a full-strength return week 1. Mark Andrews and Tank Dell high ankle with a fibular fracture. Tank Dell went down with this injury in week 12 against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Mark Andrews went down in week 11. The surgery typically requires inserting screws or a plate into the fibula bone to help stabilize it. We did see Andrews return for the Ravens in the playoffs. Data predicts full return to form by week 1. Ankle fractures don't tend to drop performance for elite pass catchers. Number 7, Damien Harris, neck sprain in week 6 against the Buffalo Bills.
Our spine has a natural curvature to it. This curvature helps to absorb impact and load, and anytime we take away some of that natural curvature, for example when players lower their head to make a tackle,
or in Harris's case when he's running with the ball,
the back and neck is more straight. This subjects the spine to higher stresses and actually makes it more susceptible to injury.
If it's a neck sprain without spine involvement, anticipate full strength return by week 1. Number 6, Joe Burrow TFCC tear status post surgery. It's unknown when the original injury occurred. We do know that the NFL is investigating why Joe Burrow was wearing a wrist brace a week before the game against the Ravens, and he wasn't mentioned in the injury report. TFCC is short for triangular fibrocartilage complex, highlighted in green here. This is a load-bearing structure, and it acts as a stabilizer for the ulnar aspect of the wrist. Surgery involves suturing and reattaching the tear. Ligamentous ruptures are reattached using sutures and inserting screws and wires to stabilize the region until complete healing. Data strongly favors full range of motion and grip strength. Anticipate return to light throwing in April.
Welcome to the Fastest Medical Minute. I'm your host, Dr. Nav Videsha. This is a series med-inspired by the great Chris Berman's Fastest 3 Minutes. We've partnered with SportsMed Analytics to bring you the industry-leading data-driven injury analysis. If you enjoy this and if you learned something new, make sure you give a huge thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.
Justin Herbert, 2 separate fractures of both of his hands status post surgery. In week 4 against the Raiders, Herbert broke his left middle finger. He would wear a brace on this thing and he would play through it with limited performance impact. Chargers fans would learn that his season would come to a premature ending in week 14 against the Denver Broncos after he suffered a fracture of his right index finger of the throwing hand. Fortunately, the data for this type of surgery is highly favorable. We're expecting a full strength return well before training camp with no long-term issues. Keaton Mitchell, hyperextension and fortunately only ACL. Gruesome video. Data suggests October return most likely. Young running backs tend to see a ramp-up period in touches and initial explosiveness dip, expecting a committee early with a stronger second half of the season, similar to Breece Hall this year. Number 3, Anthony Richardson, grade 3 AC sprain with possible labrum tear and rotator cuff involvement. Original injury occurred in week 5 after a strong start to the season. Richardson also was plagued by concussions. Fortunately, the data suggests he should be back to form. No drop-off in long-term performance. Expect him throwing full strength by April. Number 2, Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins, Achilles rupture. Rodgers with a left leg Achilles rupture definitely should be ready by week 1, expecting less of a performance impact due to his Achilles injury occurring on his non-dominant foot. Kirk Cousins' right leg Achilles Also expected to be good to go by week 1, but right-handed quarterbacks push off with the right calf muscle more, suggesting a small performance dip. Coming in at number 1 as the worst injury of the 2023 season, Nick Chubb. Knee hyperextension with multiple ligament damage and a possible dislocation. The original injury occurred in week 2 against the Steelers. Nick Chubb, for the second time in his career, suffered a multi-ligament injury of this knee. When you have a possible knee dislocation, it can be limb-threatening. This usually requires tearing 3 of the 4 ligaments of the knee. First concern for doctors here is going to be the blood vessels and the nerves. Note the popliteal artery running through the back of the knee as well as the tibial nerve. These are important to preserve to avoid limb loss. For Chubb, this is the same knee that he had multi-ligament knee surgery for in the past. This is uncharted territory for running backs. The last surgery that he had was in November. Data suggests a 10 to 11 month timeline, expecting a performance dip in at least 1 year and questionable running back longevity.